I don't want you taking me out for Valentine's Day. It doesn't sound like I'll get flowers and chocolate if if you're asking me out for dinner.
Hello there, welcome along again to another edition of Shootout, brought to you by the new Nissan Rogue, redesigned, redefined. And as always, we're ready to debate the big soccer talking points with the one and only Greg Brady live in Toronto. And Premier League football, Greg, is almost back.
Almost back. Some big matches. It's very strange. We're still looking at a very bizarre table. We're looking at a lot of very bizarre domestic tables across all of Europe. We're seeing very strange scenarios with teams struggling out of the gate in this new COVID world, and some great Champions League matches on tap.
First question this week on Shootout, brought to you by the all-new Nissan Rogue, redesigned, redefined, is who has had the best managerial career, Pep or Jose? Guardiola or Mourinho? Do I even need to ask Greg Brady this question with his love affair, with his bromance with the special one?
Well, with my sky blue sweater on as well, maybe I'm going to throw you a curveball. These are two of my favorites. This is like saying, what do I like better, cake or ice cream? I mean, we're not exactly split, reinventing the wheel here. But because Mourinho's had a bit of a head start, because Mourinho's done it at a lot of different destinations. Remember, 8 years Guardiola's senior. I lean Jose, but for a very different reason than you might think. And I'll lay that out in a couple minutes. What would you say?
Okay, well, I knew you were going to say Jose. And listen, in all seriousness, this is a fascinating debate. We're very fortunate to have had both of these managers. Very different styles, very different teams, but very similar records. Champions League winners, treble winners, and of course, Premier League winners as well. So I obviously are going to say Pep, but only just. And he's done it at 3 huge clubs. And don't come back to me and say, oh, well, Pep had Messi. It needed more than Messi. And there were so many other things about that Barcelona team, arguably, in our lifetime, the best team to watch and the most dollars you would ever pay to watch any football team.
I do look at Mourinho and I think, what's it about? Is it about results? Is it about winning regardless of the scoreline, regardless of how it looks? I think there's a beautiful element to the beautiful game with Pep Guardiola. There's a bit less of that with Jose Mourinho, and no one's going to argue that. And I'm not sure anyone, it's not the Porto win that puts him over the top in Champions League, but I'm not sure anyone's ever won with less talent. That's not to demean the players, less talent and less budget to go get talent. I'm not sure anyone ever will again. You look at who gets to the Champions League finals, Steve. Football and the Champions League has just become bigger business. So it's really hard for those sort of Cinderella teams, as we say, to squeak on through. So, and I look at what he's doing now at Spurs. I think we've talked about this before. The pressure that's on Pep at Man City is dramatic. It's remarkable not to let Liverpool walk to another title and at least push them a little more than they were able to last year.
The only thing I would say is, apart from maybe at Bayern by not challenging enough for the Champions League in his time there, I wouldn't say there were too many slights on Pep's record consistently. 24 major trophies as a coach, 14 of them in those 4 years with Barcelona. And the way that he's built City up from that first season, where, of course, he had the likes of Zabaleta and Gael Clichy and all the fullback collar off, and he turned over. And he admitted himself he was surprised by the pace and the power of the Premier League. Yes, he's had money, but plenty of managers have. You have to use it wisely. And to produce City's football that he did. And I just can't, when we're splitting hairs, forget that Jose Mourinho, when he went back to Chelsea the last time, it wasn't a nice dressing room. Chelsea were 10th when he left the club. Yes, he went to Manchester United and got them second. He says his best ever achievement and won those 2 trophies. But it was poisonous at the end. There was so much unhappiness. And that's why we're intrigued about Tottenham in terms of the future, in terms of rebuilding a little bit of his reputation. But those really difficult times, Pep hasn't really had, apart from, as I say, perhaps the Champions League failure with Bayern. And when you look at what Bayern have done since, that is maybe what you can come back off. But if I'm splitting hairs, apart from, as you rightly say, what would I pay dollars to see, a Mourinho team or a Pep Guardiola one? I'm going Pep Guardiola, 24 trophies with very few disharmonious dressing rooms and problems on his CV, Greg.
Oh, no question. I think he's found a way. I think if you ask the majority of players, you ask the 100 best players on the planet, you can play for one of these two men for 1 year. They're probably choosing Pep. I also look and I say the head-to-head matters somewhat. It is in Pep's favor. It makes this weekend absolutely a mouth-watering matchup. But I'd make the case that probably since Mourinho's been back in the Premier League, he's almost exclusively been an underdog. Man United's been not as strong as Man City, and now Spurs, though we're getting a little more towards equality here to where we look. And this game, virtually on the betting line, virtually a toss-up because of how Spurs have played since that opening match. They're 8 games unbeaten on the hop since losing 1-0 to Everton opening week. And Steve, we've seen a little bit of inconsistency with Man City. So it won't totally turn the tide for people's perceptions this weekend, but it's a lot of fun to watch. And I think it's a rivalry that now has sprung out of nowhere. They were just two good to great teams playing each other a half decade ago. I think we've got another legit Premier League rivalry. We were talking about that a few weeks ago. This one's getting close to as good as it gets because of the talent and the managers.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. We are lucky to have these two managers, these two characters, these two personalities that certainly spice up a fixture that is Tottenham against Manchester City, because we cannot get away from it. It is Jose against Pep again. You will see it, of course, on DAZN this weekend. You can join me, Tim Sherwood, and Michael Owen this weekend for Spurs against Manchester City on DAZN. Next up on Shootout, quite simply, should Ronaldo go back to Manchester United? What a question, Greg. What do you think?
I'm all for it. Yeah, I want it for a lot of different reasons. I'll even lay out why Man United haters should want it in a little bit. So I'm all in. Let's do this.
Well, listen, the romantic side of me, of which you know is very large, would say, yes, I'd love that. But I have to take romance out of it and get to hard footballing life facts. Would Manchester United really want a 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo in the way they're trying to move forward in their restructure? Possibly not, given the enormous outlay that you would have to make for a player of that age. Yes, I know he sells shirts and media rights and all the rest of it, but I think as possibly Juventus are finding at the moment, particularly in these strange and unprecedented times, that can be a bit of a noose around your neck. And would Cristiano Ronaldo, having already got those glorious memories and footage and 40-plus goals in his last season, really want to tarnish that by going back to a struggling transitional Manchester United team who at the moment aren't going to win him a Premier League title and give that romantic story, that fantastic last chapter? So no.
Well, I don't want you taking me out for Valentine's Day. It doesn't sound like I'll get flowers and chocolate if if you're asking me out for dinner on February 14th. Let me lay out why. I'll go to the haters angle first. First of all, you've got one of the most polarizing players on the planet. So fun to watch. But I've been in stadiums at the Euros. I've been at Manchester United road matches when people are cheering against him, and oh my heavens. And you only boo the players that are great. I think it would certainly get people to feel a little more polarized about Man United again. Right now, we talked about this before. What's their identity? Who's the player that, your 9-year-old son or daughter wants the shirt of? I could lean and say Pogba. I could lean and say Fernandes. But there's nothing on the other side of town. It's Kevin De Bruyne. And Man City Manchester United's got a unique challenge that Juventus doesn't have per se. And I'm glad you brought it up from a marketing and merchandise perspective. Again, in these difficult times, they've got another team right across the town that, paints the town blue, and the fans are loud, and they're a billion-dollar brand onto themselves, and one of the best players on the planet, if not the obvious best player in the entire Premier League. Does Ronaldo become that at age 36 and a half? No, he doesn't. The law of diminishing returns will kick in at some point. But Steve, so far, it has not. He's still been really productive in Serie A. He's still been a vital cog in Juventus's offense. And if United want sort of a shepherd to bring in the Pogbas, the Fernandes, some of the other goal scorers, oh my goodness, Greenwood, Rashford, you look at the scenario that takes the pressure off them. Ronaldo doesn't mind that pressure, not at 36 and a half. And let's be honest, Steve, as well, before I throw it back to you, age is just a number. I mean, you look 33, I look 32. I know you wanted it to be the other way around, but it's true. Ronaldo's got Ronaldo's got the game to play this season. He's the Tom Brady of the NFL. He'll be doing this when he's 42 or 43. We know that.
Listen, 110%. I've seen him in the early days, obviously, and I heard all the story. He is a remarkable trainer, a remarkable athlete with an unbelievable work ethic and attitude. And that is right. And that is why he will play till 40, 41. Where he will play is up for debate, and that's why we're debating it. But in terms of United's identity, you're right. I'm saying it, they're in transition. So why, if I'm Cristiano Ronaldo, would I go back to Manchester at that age? He's no pressure. He's no problem with pressure. He will carry any team. Look at Portugal in Euro 2016. But he needs to see some roots of help. You can't do it all on your own at 26, let alone 36. Although he tried, to be fair, and like I say, that last season when he scored 40-odd goals. But when he left Manchester United, he was playing with Tevez. He was playing with Wayne Rooney. He had Scholes and Carrick supplying him behind him. He had a defensive Ferdinand and Vidic and Evra and Van der Sar in goal. Manchester United are a million miles away from that at the moment. Why would he go into a team? He went to Juventus knowing he had a realistic chance of adding another medal, more silverware to his remarkable CV, which he's done. He won't want to go back to Manchester United without a chance of that. And at the moment, even in this crazy, crazy season, they haven't. I see there's one more biggish move left for him, whether that's Paris Saint-Germain, whether that's another country and another title. So you could say he's won it in 4 different countries, whether he could help some of their players, I don't know. And I do think when he is 39, 40, we'll see him back at Sporting Lisbon. Now, that is the romantic side, where he began, where he was born, where he was made, and where he had to leave at 17 because he was so good. And every top club on the planet in Europe wanted to sign him, and Manchester United had that agreement to do so.
It makes sense for fans to want it. Viewers here, we want it. Absolutely. It makes sense for the club to want it also. Man United's a lot more interesting when they're competing for titles. Right now, they're a little less interesting sitting at 14th or 15th in the table. Of course, they won't end up there, but he gives that instant snap of a finger of credibility. And next year, if that's where it starts, and it starts into the 21-22 season, oh, there's a lot of buzz about Man United. If they keep everybody else together and just add Ronaldo into the mix, wow, we're talking about those are can't miss matches all season long to watch play at home and on the road.
Oh, they are. And listen, it would be a Hollywood story. And I don't think anyone who likes the Premier League, who supports Manchester United, or indeed is a huge fan, as I am, of Cristiano Ronaldo, wouldn't want to see it. But it has to be right for the club. It has to be right for the player. And only time will tell. Next up on Shootout, this question. Who will be the first Champions League manager this season to be sacked? Well, Greg, we don't like firing bullets. We don't like talking about managers losing their jobs. But with the intense pressure of the Champions League and some of those group standings, who do you think?
Yeah, there's intense pressure because there's obviously, a fixture list that's more contracted. There's time off that was there last season and seasons before that isn't there this season. I look at the group that I think everybody's focusing on right now, and we've got an unbelievable match coming up with Real Madrid and Inter Milan. But it's not Zinedine Zidane I'm worried about. I think there's enough capital there. There's been enough investment in him and him back to the club in terms of trophies and results. But I worry about Antonio Conte. I know people feel like he's just getting going there, and he's managed 2 big clubs before. But I worry that they've got to get a result against Real Madrid, and that's a big ask for Antonio Conte and a struggling team, not just in the Champions League, but Serie A right now. I can give you more on that. Who's your guy?
Well, you're absolutely right. I can't wait for this game. It's a huge, huge game. Real Madrid 4th in La Liga at the moment. If Inter were to win that game and put Real Madrid in severe pressure, they've only got 4 points on the board at the moment of not getting through that Champions League group. And if Real Madrid for any reason didn't, then I would fear for Zinedine Zidane. But I tell you something, that is the standout game in the next round of the Champions League because you're right, it is huge for both managers. So I won't say this is Zidane, but he's certainly in the mix. I'd say under more pressure than Conte because of sometimes unrealistic expectation because of the investment, because of the players they had, and because they went so close last season, would be Thomas Tuchel. Because Paris Saint-Germain, we know, dominate France. But at the moment, we're actually only 4 points clear after 10 games. And as daft as it may sound, at PSG, with the enormous investment, that's not good enough. And then you look at what's happened in the Champions League group, which, of course, with Manchester United's result in Istanbul has been turned around in that group. It's a remarkable section. They play Leipzig on match day for PSG. If they lose that, they are in serious trouble.
I do want to say on Zidane, I think you've got that as well quite correct, because I look at Real Madrid. I think they're going to win their league. They're not in near as much trouble as Inter Milan is. But Inter Milan's expectations aren't as high as Real Madrid. You raise expectations at a certain point in time and you don't keep fulfilling them and you don't stay along a parallel line. There's two reasons to get rid of a manager, Steve, as we know. One, you think you've hit the wall and you're not going to achieve any more or with that manager. Or two, you look and say, there's somebody out there better. There's a nice, shiny, bright light. And we talked about Pochettino before. There's going to be a number of clubs. It just feels like he's in a great spot. I know he's not working right now. It's never great not to be working, but he's got a lot of teams, I think, that'll be picking up that phone and chatting to him once they decide there's a vacancy available.
You're absolutely right. And those three clubs we're talking about, PSG, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, he could manage them all, Maurizio Pochettino. And, of course, Manchester United, who we've spoken about before, and maybe even Manchester City if Pep Guardiola isn't there last season. He's in a terrific spot at the moment, and I tell you, he'll be watching those match day 4 fixtures with big interest, because the difference with Paris Saint-Germain, perhaps with some of the other clubs at the moment, within the financial restrictions of the pandemic, they don't have them. We know about the financial force of PSG, but with that comes a necessity, and one of those necessities is you get out the bare minimum of that group stage of the Champions League. And we've seen fractions of Thomas Tuchel and his comments and his body language, the ongoing saga with Neymar. You're right, he's missing Mbappe. He's lost experience in characters in that group as well, Cavani and Thiago Silva. It's a little bit of a transitional stage for Paris Saint-Germain. Whereas Inter Milan, as disappointing as their Serie A season is at the moment, if they dropped out, which they did, of course, last season and went all the way to another European final, yes, financially, it's a huge blow, particularly in these times. Yes, it's a kudos thing with Inter as well. They want to be there, but they haven't got that steeped history, obviously, since the treble win under Jose Mourinho. Yeah. And I think because all these leagues are having crazy results at the moment, Italy's still wide open. Juve, we know, aren't Juve of old. So there is still the opportunity for Conte to regroup, maybe strengthen in January, and go on a run. And still, as crazy as it sounds, I might have predicted on Shootout at the start of the season, win Serie A. But there's no doubt, Greg, it feels like a semi-final or quarter-final, that meet-up in the San Siro, Inter against Real Madrid.
Well, it's a massive match, and I don't think there's a doubt that the result will impact at least the manager's job security. Whether there's a move quickly afterwards or not, a draw almost salvages both managers.
Absolutely, and of course, as we've mentioned, the standout tie in the next match round is at the San Siro. It's Inter against Real Madrid. You will be able to see that and all the other ties, as if you needed reminding, on the home of the Champions League on DAZN.